even though he's placing second, it's like no one cares about second. Hello everyone and welcome to Plus 3, the only show that won't get your head coach fired. I'm Matt Rosman, joined by Manu Singhal and John Epley. Gentlemen, how are you doing? How are we doing?
I'm glad that I did not get fired. That's good. I don't even know what the story behind this is.
Did you guys watch ESPN, Michael Malone, Denver Nuggets? They fired their head coach with 3 games left in the season.
I did see this actually, yeah.
It's the tariffs, dude. It's affecting everyone's job.
head coach and general manager job security is scarce. It'd be great if we had Dylan on, because he's a huge Denver and Jokic Blazer. He's probably in shambles after that. What's so funny about that?
Where even are they in the Western
they're like 5th, tied with 4 other teams. So over the next 3 games, they could be like
tight.
up to 4th or like down to 8th. But anyway, this is a cubing podcast, not a basketball podcast. Unfortunately, we'd be getting a lot more viewers that way. Matt Marinick, if you would like to start a basketball podcast on the channel, I would like to host it. Anyway, speaking of, similar to Jokic, maybe LeBron James, Yiheng. We got to talk about Yiheng. The world record, once again, pushed further closer to sub 4. Yiheng with a 4:03 3x3 average. A little bit tragic, as he was on like a BPA pace for like a 350 average, and then had a super locky solve at the end. There are some discussions about some potential frames looking a little sketchy, but I just want to jump into it with you guys. Is this as big as some of the other Yiheng world records that we've seen specifically for Yiheng, or is it big in terms of Yiheng's competition?
So let me tell you this. I think, first of all, this is just a PSA, all right? Like, yeah, Yiheng got the world record, and yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. But you need to go back and look at, like, every single one of his averages that he got at this competition in Xi'an. 447, 423, 450, then 403. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this is just absolutely mind-boggling, right? Like, and yet no one cares. Everyone is just like, oh yeah, 403 world record. Yeah, the last solve, it came down to it. Yeah, sub 4 BPA. But no one is caring about how 450 was his worst result of that competition. Isn't that just insane? Let's all like refocus back here and think about what's actually going on here. Yiheng is by far the greatest speedcuber, at least in 3x3, that we've ever seen. Flat out. There is no debate about this, like, whatsoever. Like, right now, he's the best, and the margin by which he is, like, ahead of everyone else is just absurd. Xuanyi also got 4 sub 5 averages, and he got second every single time. Every single time. It's just not even close. It's just ridiculous. I think, the only thing that didn't go through for Yiheng on this one was the lockup and that he didn't get sub 4. But we have to recognize that we have an extremely special solver in this community. And I think we need to give him more credit where credit is due. Man, he's just ridiculous. Absolutely tearing up speedcubing right now.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, we're getting tired of talking about Yiheng, but I think he kind of got to, he's reached another new level where the consistency's there. So now, can he keep that up in these clutch performances like Worlds? I mean, I think that we probably said it before, but it's really his to lose. I mean, no one else is going to be expected to win. I mean, Timon might have some hype there. Max might get some of the attention because USA. I'm going to vote for him because he's from the USA, but probably won't win, realistically. I mean, unless Yiheng loses. And even if someone does win other than Yiheng, the conversation will still be, did X win or did Yiheng lose? So, most exciting solver in the world, whether it's 3x3 or it's tic-tac-toe. So, I love watching him perform.
Yeah, and I also want to mention, just casually, this is the problem when you when you compete at an event with Yiheng is that other times will just get brushed to the side. Yufeng had a 459. He's ahead of Timon. The top 3 in the world are now all these younger Chinese solvers, and in the case of Yufeng, it's increasingly like one tricks. Remember, Yiheng is the GOAT of 2x2, and he's incredible at pure mix. When you look at a Zhuan Yi or a Yufeng or even Zhao Kun, all these different, like you were going to slowly see like the top 10 of this event get dominated really by one tricks. I think the era where 3x3 averages, where like the best ones are going to come from guys who are really good at a lot of different stuff, you know, big cubes, small cubes, other events, that's gone. Because whatever these kids are doing, whatever coaching they're getting, and really, you know, obviously devotion to one event is going to make you a lot better. I just think it's crazy that we had the WR3 happen and no one cares, because there's just it's like when you go to the Himalayas and there are all these giant mountains, but you don't care that there are giant mountains because Mount Everest is right there. Yiheng is right there. And I also or John, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say this WR3 is results number 34. So it's just been demolished over and over and over again by Yiheng Wang. So I think that's why we're numb to it. It's like WR3 doesn't matter. Yiheng has beaten this over and over and over and over and over.
How many times is I'm just gonna look at this here. How many times has Zhuan Yi beaten that? Okay, 3, 4.
Yeah, not that many.
He's got 5.
Zhuan
Yi has 5 of those. So out of the other 30, so Yiheng has the other 29 averages. My God.
It's just ridiculous. It's like just actually just nuts. And you know, you can talk about like, oh, like there are sussy frames and whatever, and sure, maybe like the average is going to get adjusted here and there. But I think like all it takes is for Yiheng to stop the timer a little bit slower. And yeah, sure, instead of getting 403, he gets 405 average. Guess what? Everyone else is getting 505. No one else is even close. So it doesn't really matter that much at the end of the day. Obviously, I'm not saying that like Yiheng should go out and cheat and whatever. I'm just saying that like don't use like the weird frames to kind of like smear him and stuff like that, because we all know he is the best in the world, and nothing is going to change that. Not right now, at least. And
quickly before I let y'all go in on Ziyu a little bit, let me just say, going into Worlds now, my faith. We talked about this a little bit before recording. I think the biggest loser is the guy who I picked to win Worlds, and that's Zhuan Yi. I think, like, with how quickly, like, because when Zhuan Yi had that 432, right? Yeah. When he had that solve, it was like, oh my God, you know, Yiheng actually has competition. But Zhuan Yi's not solving at as consistent a level as he was. And at some level, Yiheng's just getting better. I think that, you know, there's a real shot now for Zhuan Yi to not even make top 2. You know, which is like, oh, you're only the 3rd best in the world. You know, it only being 3rd in the world championship. But I think out of everyone here, he's got to be the biggest loser. Even though he's, you know, placing 2nd, it's like, no one cares about 2nd. You know, he's got to find some kind of way to leapfrog Yiheng in these events, because otherwise, like, Yiheng's just going to take it again and again and again. And I think, you know, it, like, yeah, we can say, oh, he's got dodgy frames, this and that. Let me just say something. I think I've said it before, probably months ago. Yes, there are issues with sliding, but we don't give a damn if it is anyone else in the world. The 100,000 other people, however many, Manu, you're a delegate.
250.
215,000? They're 50, sorry. 250,000 other people who have competed in this, and we don't care except for this one kid. Personally, I think that's a measure of I think that's respect in and of itself. When you get that kind of scrutiny that people are questioning, like, there's no way he's that good, man, I still have to stand by my take that Zhuan Yi's going to come out on top at Worlds 2025. But the way things are going now, like, you just have to sit and watch, we're watching the mushroom cloud in the distance, and the shockwave will hit us at Worlds. And we got to be ready for that, man.
Yeah, I think
Oppenheimer style.
I'll make an interesting prediction. I think Yiheng is actually not going to win all 4 rounds at Worlds. I think it's pretty likely that he loses the first round or maybe the second round or something. But I think he'll show up when it matters most. I think he will realize that 3x3 semifinals, really 3x3 semifinals, is like going to be the most nerve-wracking round at Worlds for basically everybody. Finals is only really going to matter for maybe like the top like 6 to 8 people. But I think Yiheng is going to just show up and he's just going to dominate. I just don't see how it can go any other way. And now that he's had experience competing in the US too, that gives him a little chip on his shoulder. Perhaps, before it was like a foreign country, had never been here. I heard apparently from Schwan, who heard from Phil, that while Yiheng was in America, he only ate Chinese food while he was here, which is pretty funny. So he's acclimating. And yeah, I think he's just gonna dominate at Worlds. I don't think anything. He can get the WR. He can lose the W. Well, maybe if he loses the WR, maybe that would shake his confidence. But I just don't see how it can go any other way.
Yeah, I think he's waiting on the sub 4 Worlds. Like, I think that he knows it. I think that the Cubicle knows it. I think that all of his sponsors are telling him, like, dude, throttle this. Like, we need to make sure that this record comes at the right time, so that way we can sell some cubes. So I think there's a
exactly. Save it for Worlds so we can make more money.
He threw
on 4.
Go back and watch that video.
Me when I'm
He's not upset with the solver or the lockup. He's upset that he had to follow the script.
Oh.
Me when 470 tanks my average.
Anyway, the other big solver at this event, Ziyu Wu. I probably totally butchered that pronunciation, and I'm sorry. What a performance. Let's just say that. Number 9 in the world 5x5. Number 4 6x6, and number 2 7x7, all in one comp. Manu, break this down. This is kind of a little bit out of nowhere, would you say? A little bit unexpected?
Yeah, what's interesting is, like, because we just don't hear about, like, when you think of Chinese cubers, you think Yiheng, right? And you think Zhuan Yi, you think Bofan, whatever, right? But you don't really think about, the older Chinese cubers nowadays. Like, the oldest Chinese cuber you probably know is probably Ruiheng, right? And no one really thinks about, like, anyone else. But this is pretty big in my opinion, because that 7x7 average, that's like, I think 142. That beats Nam by a pretty big margin too. And that puts him WR2 right behind Max, right? And we all know that, like, Max had a huge lead on WR2, and now that lead basically got cut in half, which is certainly really, really interesting. I don't think Ziyu is going to go to Worlds, so it doesn't really factor in as much there. But it's just really interesting to see that, like, when we think of China, right, in the world of speedcubing, we think of all these, like, young kids, little kids. All they do is they practice 2x2, 3x3 pyramids, right? And now some guys are getting to Scube or whatever. But we don't really think about everything else. But everything else is still a major factor. China is a major speedcubing nation. And so I thought it was really, really cool to see. And also, it's just like an amazing pop-off performance. I think, like, there were like 3 NRs and the ASR at one competition by one guy. Like, what an amazing competition. I don't know if there are many people who've had better competitions than that, just very objectively speaking. So great work to him. It'll be interesting to see what he can bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, this podcast is essentially like a documentation of me realizing that China is going to take over, and just me, like, coping with it every single week. Like, we can't even have big cubes anymore, man. Like, Kevin Hayes was our guy, like, as American, as blue-blooded as it got. But then all of a sudden, this is getting taken over too, man. Max was holding it down strong. I thought we were going to continue to have our one or two events. So I guess we get Square One and Clock, and I don't like either of those things. So it's really cool to see that that these guys are specialized. I mean, this isn't a child, which is exciting to see. Motivating to see someone who's not sub 10 years old dominating, because it gives me a little bit of hope. But also, it seems like these guys have kind of figured out, okay, 3x3 is cooked. Like, there's just, don't even focus on 3x3. That's, leave it to the kids. Big cubes is what they still have the chance to compete in. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of tech, I think, that still needs to be developed across a lot of the other events. Like, we have 17 events, right? And obviously 3x3 has been like the most developed out of all of them, because the vast majority of people compete in 3x3 and nothing else. Or rather, compete in 3x3 primarily, the most rounds, the most solves. But there's a lot of other like places where I think what am I trying to say? The envelope needs to be pushed a little bit more. And it's really cool to see that the other events are also like evolving along with it. So it's cool. Excellent. Great. It's good for speedcubing, I think, to have multiple events, so people can, realize that 3x3 is not the thing I care about, but I care about 7x7. I don't know why you would care about 7x7, but I guess if you're one of the best in the world,
that's actually why they put that's why we're having a trade war with China right now, why we put the tariffs on them, so that way they could only send half as many people, they can only send half as many Chinese cubers to Worlds.
And so that all the puzzles become 3 times as expensive.
Exactly. Right. It just means that U.S. domestic Square One, Square One is going to be the new U.S. event, because China has absolutely destroyed us in the traditional cube. Which, by the way, to anyone to anyone watching, we're not economists. We did say we were going to talk about tariffs the last time. I think briefly, right? Like briefly near the end, we should.
Dude, everything is changing at this point. Let's leave that
no. But just like, I can't wait for when like a GAN cube. Like, are you ready for like the $200 imported GAN cube? I'm so excited for that, man. Like,
you guys
I buy
have been
stuff
getting
from
GAN cubes for cheaper than $200.
Everyone's just gonna like start like selling their like GAN and Moyu stuff to where I don't even know what I'm saying at this point, man. I'm a
very classic.
What do you mean very classic? What do you mean?
Let's move on to the next segment.
My life
let's keep
my life is just getting various forms of anxiety from watching how many times this country screws up. Anyway, speaking of this country, the U.S. What, John?
USA. USA. I don't even know what we're cheering for, but it's the USA, so I'll blindly accept it.
Recession. Anyway.
Oh, gosh.
US cubing is not in a recession. In fact, I want to talk about something a little interesting. So this past weekend, Bendy was popping off. PR average of 563. Clock Nar. PR Mink single, just throw it in as a cherry on top. Little bit of an interesting discussion point, especially from what we've seen as well at his performance at PSL. A lot of the US cubing discussion for some time now has been focused on Caleb Chen, as like the future. Ever since Dylan crashed out about Caleb Chen last summer, it's been a kind of a continual point of, okay, this is the next logical step after like Luke Garrett and Luke Greiser and Dilly and all these guys. Where does Bendy fit into all this? Like, at the rate that he's improving, at the rate that he's becoming a bit of a higher profile 3x3 solver, is he at that level of potential that Caleb Chen is at? Or are we kind of comparing apples to oranges here?
Yeah, so here's what I think. As someone who competes with Bendy and puts on competitions here in Southern California, dude, this guy's legit. Like, and he's legit in a couple different ways. He's obviously like he's very, very fast, right? Like 563. Let's not just like put that off to the side because Yiheng got 403 this weekend. 563 is serious, right? It's like a WR top 50 result. And I think it's like NR probably top 20, if not better than that. So A, he's wicked fast. Two, the guy has like an insane like it's almost like a cult of personality, but without like the negative connotation. He just has like a huge following, and wherever Bendy goes, like people like follow him. Like he's like a really interesting character in that regard, and I think that's something that's really it's something that's pretty unique because I feel like most top solvers don't have that kind of like aura about them that causes people to just kind of like rally behind them in what they're doing. Like I would say that the entire region of SoCal is a Bendy supporter, right? Like we're all going to be rooting for him to make it onto the world's podium and win worlds because he is that kind of guy. He can definitely do it. Not to mention if you've seen like his pop-offs and stuff, he's just electric. He's just really fun to watch and interact with, and he's a nice kid, all things considered. So if you ask me, I think he's definitely in the conversation. Now, whether or not he's Caleb Chen levels, that might be a different story because Caleb is also like amazing. But all that is to say is maybe we're not as doomed as we think. Maybe it's just that the US cubing scene just needs a little bit of time to grow and mature a little bit, the next generation of cubers. And naturally, I think from across the country, these guys are just going to start popping up here and there. And next thing you know, we're going to be in a US cubing renaissance even. That's my take.
John?
I don't know, man. I feel like this is kind of similar to like there's no plumbers out there. There's no one to fix things anymore. Like none of these kids are learning real skills. So are we going to run into the same issue where these kids are just lazy and don't want to find real jobs in our country? They just like, oh, I'll program my robot to solve a Rubik's Cube. Like, where is our motivation to go out there and be blue collar solvers? Wake up, children.
What? That was worse than my tariff bit. What is that? What do you mean?
Not sure where he took that.
What does that mean?
You keep trying to like say other people do things worse than you, but like it's never true. Like it might be my worst take, but even my worst take is like a couple levels above your best take.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Do we really need to go back to the
No. We don't need to talk
Just
about
saying.
that.
Look, all I'm saying is Bendy is ridiculous, and if you don't watch out for, I think you should basically put Bendy on your watch list. Anytime there's a competition in SoCal, just keep it on, just keep it in the background and just see what Bendy and others are going to do. Obviously, we got Max out here too. He's like one of the best. Graham, obviously, one of the best multi-blind solvers to ever do it. So we got a bunch of great solvers out here. So if you see a competition in Southern California on your WCA Live, maybe bookmark it and come back to it every couple hours that weekend to see if anything is going.
Yeah, I personally feel that Bendy is probably a next step when it comes to cubing. I don't think he's at the Caleb Chen level. Caleb Chen, just the progression that Caleb's going at is like legitimately ridiculous. However, I also don't want to discount Bendy. I think obviously Bendy's like a clock legend. We know how I feel about clock, but he's definitely a legend in that event. I think that at some level, if he really wants to raise his stock, like obviously getting the 3x3 average up is going to be crucial because he is kind of sitting just outside of that really elite tier. He's sitting just below, Faz and Timofey, and all them guys, like just outside of that group where we're like, okay, y'all are like legends. That said, I still think, especially with the pop-offs as well, he doesn't need to be the best, but I think having a character guy at times is really good for cubing scenes. We see that with like Greiser, we see that with Dylan. We like guys who bring character. I think that you can say that in all sports and all forms of media. You don't just want someone who's good at what they do. You want someone who's both, interesting and good at what they do. I think Bendy can really kind of capture that niche and kind of have a more outsized impact than his numbers would say. And I think he does have a more outsized impact than his numbers indicate anyway. Especially, Manu, with what you're saying, like, all of SoCal are Bendy fans. you don't get that kind of regional support from a lot, for a lot of cubers. It's more like general stuff. I think it's really cool to see, like, this guy's from here and he's playing on this team, and all the people around that team, in that area are supporting him. Do I think he's the Caleb Chen level? No. Do I think he's Luke Garrett level? Absolutely not. Everyone knows how I feel about Luke Garrett. And for right now, as long as there isn't a shocking development, probably for the next few months, going into Worlds, the top U.S. cuber is going to be Luke Garrett. And I stand on that. I'm sorry, Max. I'm sorry, Schwan. But, I did just disrespect Max Park, didn't I? I did just basically say, like, yo, Michael Jordan washed. Who cares? That I did just basically say, yeah, the GOAT. Yeah, I don't
The
have
reigning
my
world
odds on him.
champion.
The reigning world champion, legend, two-time
national
world champion. Yeah. I'm sorry, Max. Now I'm worried it's gonna be like how I was with Luke Garrett, like before he really started popping off, and now Max is gonna win Worlds. I mean, I won't be mad about that. I will not.
Oh my goodness! Well, if
Max wins
be
Worlds, like
amazing story.
there's gonna be a whole parade going on. Just uncontested dominance.
We're shutting down Seattle.
We're shutting down Seattle. We're taking Max to the club, man. Max, if you win Worlds, I will make this a promise to you. We're going to the club that night. We are partying the whole weekend. We'll get you an Uber. It's all cool. But this is one heck of an episode, isn't it? This is one heck of a car crash episode. But I want to move on now. Finally,
when Roz is the driver, anything can happen.
I won't expand on that, so we get to keep our ad revenue. Our like $4 in ad revenue. $4 is $4, man. Anyway, I want to get to, since I am not equipped, since I am a newer cuber, I'm not as equipped to talk about this highlight of the week. So I'm gonna pass it over to Manu and John. Talk about what this means in multiblind. Just talk about what this means for Roe Hessler in general.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is huge because this was, I think, the second longest standing world record. Multiblind is only a single. There's no such thing as multiblind average, and the record had been sitting at 59 points, I think, for 3 years at this point. And Roe Hessler, he's been attempting like huge numbers of cubes, like 70 cubes or whatever. And he's been doing that pretty consistently for the past long while. This year alone, so far, he's had 19 different multi-blind attempts. That's 19 hours that have been spent this year alone on official attempts, which is pretty insane. But he finally did it. He grabbed the big one. He grabbed the world record, 63 out of 66 in 59 minutes 50 seconds. That is, world record. 60 points, the very first 60-pointer in WCA history, and it's just incredible. It's incredible to see that he's worked really hard for this. He's gotten a ton of attempts as well. He almost certainly has one of the highest, one of the most, let me rephrase, he has almost certainly done the most M-blind attempts out of anyone else in the world. I think maybe a couple people probably come pretty close to that, but in any case, it's just amazing. And it felt like it was almost destined to happen at some point, that he was going to get 60 points. And yeah, he finally did it. He conquered whatever demons were chasing him or whatever, just leveled up a little bit. So congrats to Roe. Amazing record.
Yeah, he's been trying 70 cubes all year, essentially, and even into 2024. So it looks like this was his first time backing off of 70, and I watched his video, and he essentially explained, like, I needed a success. Like, I kept getting 50 and 55 out of 70. I needed something to feel good about going into this championship season. And I guess that's a world record. Like, so it sounded almost like it's not as much as what he wanted, but I'll take the world record. So it is pretty cool to see that this isn't where his ceiling is at. I mean, I still think that Graham Siggins he's been grinding all the time. Maybe not just strictly 3x3 blind, maybe like 11x11 blind, I think is what he's doing now. Ridiculous stuff. But I think that clearly the competition's just still there, but Roe has put an immense amount of time, money, and effort behind this record that it's really cool to see him pull it out. And the other incredible thing is he's broken world records before. This isn't his first time breaking a world record, but it is his first time in 15 years. And his last world record was .96 2x2 single, which I realistically could maybe beat that if I tried really hard, which is crazy to say. I can almost break a 15-year-old world record. Almost. But yeah, incredible to see how far cubing has progressed and how Roe he's never gone away. He became a square one guy for a long time. So Roe's continued to find ways to reinvent himself over and over and over and stay relevant in the top level of cubing, and a very humble king. So, bro, take your crown.
He's also probably one of the oldest WR holders of all time. Because I think it was something that Graham had looked up a while ago, how he was the oldest WR holder, but I'm pretty sure Roe is older than Graham. So that's pretty impressive. So yeah, there you go. There's space in the community for us.
Yeah, Roe, for context, is 34. So I think that probably is the oldest. Or would that be the oldest ever?
Yeah,
or just oldest current?
Probably back in the day there was some old ones, but
Stefan Pochman is the only one I can think of who may have been older. But I also there's so much of cubing history that is almost like lost to time these days. So,
but yeah, obviously a momentous occasion. Especially, I couldn't believe the 15 years between setting world records. I feel like that's got to be a record. That there's no way someone has a greater gap than a 15-year gap. Which I just want to.
Yeah, I think you're right, because even 1982, because Mintai got the world record in 1982, but then he never got another world record since. So yeah, so I think even including 1982, it's probably the long list.
But huge shout out to Roe. Huge shout out as well to Bendy, to Yiheng, Ziyu, Yufeng. We had a huge amount of great solving this past weekend. Just that's typically how it happens. It's just random weekend, not really expecting a lot of crazy stuff, and then all of a sudden you have a slew of incredible results. Gentlemen, do you have anything else to say as we close out this episode here?
Not much else. Keep your eyes on Cubing China, everyone, because like a lot of people sometimes ask, like, oh, where are you seeing these results, or how do you know that Yiheng got 403? I have a tab on my phone that's specifically just Cubing China, and it's Cubing China A because they have a bunch of stats on there that the WCA site doesn't have, but B because that's where all of the results get uploaded in China. They all go to Cubing China, and then the results get exported from there onto the WCA site. So if you want to know what happens in China, you should check out Cubing China.
John, what about you?
Oh, I got Chandler over Pimblet. I got Volkanovski over Lopez. It's gonna be a fun fight weekend.
Oh yeah, I was like, who are you talking about? Oh,
who are these cubers?
Yeah, who are these cubers? Oh man, can I ask? So wait, that is UFC. Like, there's a UFC. Is that a main event, or is that just like a fight night thing?
Oh, it would be a main event.
Oh
yeah, Volkanovski Lopez is the main event, and the co-main event would be Chandler Lopez or Chandler Pimblet. Chandler's an underdog, which is like free money. So
yeah, I'm just saying, if there's a Russian, put your money. If there's a Russian fighting in a UFC event, put your money on him. We're a UFC podcast now.
If DraftKings is watching,
I'll
give a parlay every week.
DraftKings, yeah, please, DraftKings, give us money.
I'll give degenerate takes every week.
So, welcome to Plus 3, the podcast about basketball, tariffs in the UFC, and sometimes cubing. Sometimes, on occasion. But yeah, I think after this absolute atrocity of an episode here, we're gonna close it out. thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Tell us how you feel about Worlds coming up. It's coming. You gotta be ready for it. Tell us if the new Yiheng world record really means anything. If it's just another sign, let us know. Watch SpeedcubingTv. Watch PSL. Support us. There are some things in the works. New ways to support your favorite creators on SpeedcubingTV, which are probably not us. Yeah,
Not us, yeah.
It's not us, dude. We have to compete with airtime with Timon and Dilly and Manny. We are not. Yeah, and Cubehead, yeah. We can't even have our own YouTube channel. Cube has to give us views, man. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.